Reef Tank. Why I chose the tank over many other brands that are out there, and why I truly believe that Waterbox are the premier providers of aquariums to reef keepers like you and I. I don't just say that because I'm a Waterbox ambassador. I don't get paid by Waterbox to say anything. They don't give me any free stuff. I say what I say because I personally believe that's the truth. So let's start with the process that I went through to make the decision to buy the tank. So let's start with, you know, the research that I did initially, looking into a reef tank. Returning to reefing after 15 years away, things had changed a lot, and the brands that I used to know back in the UK, they didn't seem to exist in the US. So I was starting from scratch. Now, I'd always known about Red Sea, so they were obviously on the list. That's about all I knew. So I joined some forums. I did watched a ton of YouTube reviews. I asked questions. I got answers. And after, I don't know, a month of doing my due diligence, I narrowed my choice down to either a Red Sea tank or a Waterbox tank. Now, if there's one thing about me that both works in my favor and works against me, is I am a stickler for customer service. I'd pay top dollar for a slightly inferior product if the customer experience was better and the customer service. That goes a long way with me, finding a company that will support you through every step of your journey. And that goes for whatever I buy, you know, a car, a camera, whatever it is. It can work, like I said, it can work in my favor, it can work against me, but that's one thing that I kind of live by, is customer service. So once I narrowed my choice down to these two tanks, I started reaching out to both firms, Red Sea and Waterbox. And I sent emails. I sent emails that if they were sent to me in my job at work, some of these emails and the questions that I was asking and I re-asked, I'd have just put them in the trash, drag them to your delete items in Outlook. I was the most frustrating, or I think I was the most frustrating customer that either of these brands would have ever met. I followed up with phone calls after phone calls and more phone calls. And one company kept on replying and coming back to me and answering my questions and taking my phone calls and listened continuously to my, what must have been for them, annoying drivel about what to do, what tank to get, when will they be in stock? Why can't they be in stock quicker? And at no point did these people put me in the trash can. And those people Waterbox. Now, I did exactly the same with Red Sea. I didn't get one reply. Now, not for 1 second saying that they don't reply to emails or they don't engage in some kind of engagement with their customers. I'm sure they do. They just didn't with me. And that there, over the course of a week of trying to approach both of these companies, sealed the deal for me, and I knew Waterbox was going to be the company that I wanted to work with. So in terms of the due diligence I did beforehand to do my research, put my time in, not rush back into this hobby, and I'm one for rushing headfirst into everything that I do. I really spent my time and based 80% of my decision to get a Waterbox tank around that engagement I had with them as a company in my first couple of weeks dealing with them. So the decision was made, and Waterbox was going to be the tank that I was going to buy. Then came the impossible task of choosing what tank I was going to get. And I went through almost everything that they made, from a Marine, a 70, all the way up to a Reef Pro. And I looked and I procrastinated for a long time over what tank I was going to get. And with their help and a little bit of directional help from my financial advisor, my wife, I finally settled on the Reef 100.3. Now, I will tell you guys, if you're looking to get into reef keeping, and I knew this from my previous experience, go as big as you can, as soon as you can, because whatever you get, you're gonna want bigger. 100%. It always happens. I wish to this day that I'd have got the 180 size tank, and I didn't. Now, I'm not saying I'm not happy with my 100-gallon tank behind me. It's fantastic. It really is. I just wish I'd gone bigger, because had I gone bigger, I'd have had to been able to keep the fish in my dreams. I'd have had tons more space in there for corals. It just would have been so much nicer. But listen, I settled on the 100.3, and have, obviously I stand by that decision today. I'll get a bigger tank, but you know, that's on the cards for the next few months. But anyway, the decision was made. The 100.3 tank was ordered. Really simple process, right? It's all done online. I went for the Plus edition, which came with the Hydra 26 HDs, and I guess it took approximately 6 weeks from the time I ordered it for the email to come through from Waterbox to sign the delivery documentation. It's all very professionally done. You sign a kind of release document. You go over, you know, where you live, the access to your house, whether the tank needs to go up any stairs, where it's going to be located. The thing turns up on a pallet. But that's what we'll talk about next. We'll talk about the whole delivery process, how, you know, who they use to deliver to me, the professionalism of the service, and then after we've talked about the delivery and the tank arriving at home, we'll talk about getting it out of the box and getting it set up. So anyway, this big truck pulls up outside, right about there, and it, like a big semi, guy gets out of it. He's like more professionally dressed than I've seen any other driver dressed before. He's got almost like a suit on, winds the back down, the tank turns up on a pallet. It's air ride suspension in the truck and everything, and there's no way that thing's getting damaged. Anyway, the guy introduced himself, said, you know, told me what he'd bought and whatnot, got it off the back of the truck, then wheeled it up my front yard. See, my kind of driveway sloped. Wheeled it up there, didn't want any help, and then I asked him if he'd put it in the garage for me, and they're not insured to do that, but you know, gave the guy $20, quite happy to put it in the garage. Signed the paperwork, and the delivery process was over in about, you know, 10 minutes. Fantastic, really professional. They sent me messages every step of the way from the moment it left the warehouse at Waterbox. I think it's in Jacksonville in Florida. I was let know by email or text message every part of the delivery, when it got to you know, somewhere in Alabama, when it got somewhere else, when it got and then when it was really close, like 30 minutes out, again another text message, your package will be here in 30 minutes. So really great delivery service. Driver went, I checked the box, made sure that there was no damage as per the instructions, and there wasn't, and then it was time to get the stuff out and start building it. Anyway, so this, the water box is now in my garage. It's on a pallet. It comes in 2 boxes. The main box has the tank in it. The second box has the cabinet in it. As I mentioned, I checked it for damage, no damage. Then to open the boxes, it's all very professionally done. There's very slim chance of these large tanks getting damaged. 1, because of the way they're transported on the truck, and 2, because of the packaging inside. All the edges are actually covered specifically an extra cardboard and extra padding so the edges don't get damaged, because if you think about it, those are the bits that are going to get knocked. The tank does come with instructions on how to set it up, but my advice is, before you do any of that, before you even open the boxes, in fact before the tank arrives, go through all the videos that are online that have been put together by Waterbox. They will help you with your tank build. I didn't really refer to the instructions at all, except for building the cabinet, but again, all those videos are online. I would really recommend that you go online, spend you know, an hour, a couple of hours watching everything you can find, so when that tank comes and you get it out, you're good to go, right? You pretty much know what to do, and then you can just refer to the instructions as a kind of nice to have. Putting the tank together was simple. I'm not a do-it-yourself expert or a home improvement expert by any means, and I had that cabinet built in about an hour and a half on my own with no help, which is not like me at all. So once the cabinet's done, it's time to put the tank in. Now the sump is heavy. You could probably manage it on your own if you're a big strong lad, but I'm not, and I've got some discs in my back that need fixing, so I had help shifting the sump. You're definitely not going to be able to lift the tank on its own unless you're John Cena, and I think even he'd have trouble with it. And again, get some help with that. It does weigh an absolute ton. It comes with kind of self-leveling mat on the bottom of the tank. It's really cool, so you're not going to worry about any nasty stuff being on top of the cabinet that due to the pressure is going to put a crack in the glass. It's very well done. The plumbing, it takes minutes to set up. None of it's glued together. Everything's pushed together or screwed. It really is simple. It's child's play, the way that they've made these tanks. Fill it with water, put your sand in, put your rock in, get the overflow set up. That's a bit finicky, I will say. It's a little bit finicky, but once you get it dialed in, the tank's absolutely silent. Absolutely silent. You cannot hear it. I can hear what's meant to be silent Nile skimmer over the top of any of the noise that my tank makes. So that's the process I went through in deciding to buy a Waterbox tank. It was pretty extensive. I would say I took about a month and a half's research until I pulled the trigger. But do I regret it? 100%. I don't regret anything about dealing with this company at all. They make great tanks. They make great cabinetry. It's professional grade cabinetry, and to reiterate, the best thing for me is the customer service and the customer interaction. It's really second to none. You've seen the videos that they put online. You see the things that they do for the reefing community. They just had a family reunion. They donate money to reef restoration foundations. These guys are serious about it, and of course they're in it to make money, right? Everyone's got to make a living and to pay the mortgage, and that's why we all exist, right, on this planet, is to be able to live. But by the same token, right, they go a long way to help people like you and I to get the most out of the hobby and to really make it enjoyable. So that was my journey. That's what led me to buy a Waterbox Reef Tank. I hope it's persuaded at least some of you to think about considering them in the future. Maybe for a new tank, or maybe to upgrading from a non-Waterbox brand tank. And feel free to ask me any questions about the whole process, the tank, the customer service. I'm quite happy to answer those questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell, you'll know when I post. Try to post every week. I'll try to post more than every week, but I'm not going to post if I don't have anything interesting to talk about. You know, I'm certainly not going to be posting the top 10 favorite candy bars to buy. So like and subscribe. I need your support. Thanks, guys.